What's up YouTube, NCG here, bringing you a counter fairy deck profile. Now apologies for the late video, it has been a little bit late getting this one up. But now that you've all kind of either bought your counter fairy decks, or of course you're maybe interested in buying the counter fairy decks, this is the deck profile that I've kind of put together that shows you the abilities of what the new cards can provide to the deck, on top of what you need to add to it if you want to make it incredibly competitive and powerful. There are alternatives that I'll show you at the end that you can take out to make it a bit more budget friendly, but without further ado, I'll take you through it and show you what we've got. So, we start off with 2 Sacred Arch Iron Knight Parshaf. This is the new boss monster of the deck. It's very, very cool because it can recycle itself from grave and, of course, special summon itself from the hand, which is very, very good, consistent and powerful, and that is why we play VFD and enter Blathnia. Triple Guiding Ariadne, because there's nothing better than playing your counter traps for free. Double Power Angel Valkyria. Obviously, it's more specific that it has to negate a spell or trap in order to add a light fairy, but again, it is your search, so you do want to be playing this. Bountiful Artemis is your draw as well. So just imagine using your counter trap to negate a spell and trap. Not only will you get a plus of Artemis, you'll also get the search as well. On top of that, we've also got Minerva that can also bring back from the graveyard to give you a bit more protection. Or, of course, you could bring out the Honest Play, bounce it back to your hand, and then protect any of your monsters on the field. Or, of course, you could put the Barrier Statue of the Heavens in as well and use that in the same combo as Ties of the Brethren to give you an Honest to protect the statue. And, of course, use whatever monster you bring back out to be in coinciding with your back row in order to gain you more advantage, whether it be a draw or a plus. Then we've got one Mattel. Mattel lets you, each time a counter is activated, you gain 1,000 life points, and then if Sanctuary is on the skies on the board, you get to pop 1 card as well, so it's very, very helpful. But we only really want to play it at 1. The exact same reason we play Harvest Angel of Wisdom at 1 is when it's destroyed by battle, you get to add a counter trap from your graveyard, so it lets you recycle your graveyard, and it's more specific, especially with an 1800 attack, it's quite useful. Layard lets you recycle your banished monsters, which you will be doing to get into your new boss monster of Parshaf. And then, of course, to make it as powerful as we can, we've got triple Ash Blossom and double Ogre. Now, of course, if you want to be a bit more budget, you can take these out for 2 Herald of Orange Light, 1 Herald of Green Light, and Eva, if you want as well. They can kind of add to this, but it's not as consistent. And again, if you want to go first, the whole reason with counter fairies is they want to go first because they want to be able to set up their back row. If you don't go first, which, you know, it might be shifting a little bit more to a balanced kind of area that even with Spirals wanting to go, sometimes preferring to go second, it does give you a couple of options on the board. However, Ogres and Ashes are always going to be powerful in order to give you that foothold if you do have to go second. You could play evenly matched in this deck if you wanted to, again, to balance the board out. It's entirely up to you. Spells, we play Triple Ties of the Brethren. Now, this is both a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because it can put you out some incredibly powerful boards in order to kind of maintain and abuse the abilities of your counter traps more. But, of course, it can get ashed very, very easily. And the second the opponent knows you're playing counter fairies, if they know you're playing the Ties of the Brethren build, they will hold off and hold their ashes until that move. Triple Sanctum of Parshaf. This again is, of course, a very core card in the deck. Very, very useful. Becomes Sanctuary in the sky while on the field and in the graveyard. It gives your fairy monsters a nice little boost, which is cool as well. And it also protects your spells and traps so they can't be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects. And then when a counter trap is activated, you get to target 3 in your graveyard. 3 counter traps or fairy monsters, I believe it is. Place them on top of your deck in any order, so it lets you recycle and kind of stack your deck. Double Pot of Desires for the +2 is always very handy. 1 Pot of Duality. You can, of course, play Pot of Duality and more if you want, but it does clash with Ties of the Brethren. So if you want to go for a more back row heavy build, you can, of course, take out the majority of the new support. This is mainly built to show you the abusiveness of the new support. But you would take out your hand traps, you would take out your most of the new support and go back to the old style of like counter fairies, statues, and in doing so, of course, you would then need to rely on your back row a hell of a lot more, meaning you would want to go first a lot more, and probably that's where you would main your evenly matched. Double Ultimate Providence, because of course the discard folder can be used for free if you have Guiding Ariadne on board, and with this deck you can search it, but of course it's still an incredibly powerful counter trap that can negate. Double Rebirth of Parshaf, again kind of combos off with the rest of your deck. You've got 2 Parshafs in the main deck and 2 in your extra deck you can get access to. It is quite a high cost of a discard and to pay 1,000 life points, but if you have Guiding Ariadne in the scale, of course you're doing this for free. 2 Divine Punishment, again another nice negation effect as well. and then you get to destroy it, so it's nice to kind of use it, but you do require Sanctity in the Sky on board as well. We've then got 2 Solemn Strikes and 1 Solemn Warning. You can obviously bump your Solemn Strikes up if you want, but again, with the ability of Guidant Ariadne, being able to play these for free is very, very powerful, very, very useful, and can really catch your opponent off guard. So definitely get hold of these and play these if you can. Next up to the extra deck, I'll get these out of the way straight away because these are proxies at this moment in time. I still don't have them. These are 2 of the Air Knight Parshaft Synchro Monster. They're very, very cheap. They're about 74p. I'm just waiting for mine to come in, so definitely play 2 of that because you can access it. The extra deck isn't heavily reliant, so you can also put in Reaper targets if you want to be using Reaper. You can't abuse Reaper in this deck as much as you kind of would in other dark decks and stuff like that. We also play the 1 True King of All Calamities because you can make this with your 2 Parshafts, detach a material, lock your opponent out. It's probably one of the best rank 9s in the game. And then, of course, you recycle your Parshafts, and you could end up going into a Phantom Fortress Enter Blafnir, or Blafnir can be a more aggressive kind of go for game option for you. We then play standard rank 4 Engine of Castel, number 106 Babaguska, Fairy Cheergirl for those extra draw power, your Tornado Dragon for backroad hate, Star Liege Pile Dynamite because they're all lights. You can also play Bujinte Tsukiyomi if you wanted to, but that's really going to be dependent on how much hand presence you want. Your Evil Swarm Ouroboros and your Satellarknight Deltaros, both again have their pluses. Now Deltaros deals with pop cards on the field straight away, but Ouroboros can hit obviously hand, field and grave, so they can both be very, very helpful. One a little bit stronger than the other. And especially off of Ties of the Brethren, if you've abused all of your back row and you want to push in for game a little bit more, or you just need to get another fairy target in your grave for Parshaft, of course you can then do so using these 2 cards here, and it can kind of give you something for your opponent to worry about. The final XYZ we play is Abyss Dweller. Now, of course, you would only play this in certain situations, so you can take this out for another rank 4 of your choosing, or any other kind of rank 9s you would like to play, or, of course, Link Monsters. And the Link Monsters we play are the 1 Akashic Magician and the 1 Deco Talker. Because the deck doesn't rely on the extra deck that much, Akashic, in my personal opinion, is one of the better generic Link 2 monsters, especially if you're playing a deck that are all the same types. And then Deco Talker is, of course, the main generic Link 3. So maybe instead of going into Deltaros or Ouroboros, you can go into Deco Talker and kind of unlock your board a little bit more. Especially if you've got 2 Parshafts in grave, you could then obviously make 2 Parshafts, go into a Enter Blafnir or, of course, a VFD. And you're boosting up your Deco Talker. Deco Talker then goes and does his thing. But, of course, Deco Talker also has a bit of target protection as well. So that can help you out massively in the game if need be. So, that is it for the deck. That is quite straightforward. It can be made relatively budget-like. There's nothing... The monsters in the main deck, apart from the Ashes and obviously Ogres, all come in the structure deck, which is a very, very good kind of structure deck for any Counter Fairy fan in general. And then, of course, the extra deck is where the money goes, but you don't need to rely that heavy on the extra deck. You can change it up, and it does give you a couple of options to play around with and work around to give you the best you possibly can from a Counter Fairy deck. Now, obviously, there is a London Open this weekend, so it'll be very, very interesting to see how much representation Counter Fairies get. My bets are that they'll get quite a lot of Spiral support down there being played, and of course a bit of Trickstar shenanigans. But it will always be fun to see Counter Fairies and see how they kind of deal with Tricksters and the whole game itself like that. Anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Sorry for the late video again, but until next time guys, on Tuesday, see ya.